We are live here again doing Technical Tuesdays with Tim, and we're going to be taking a look over at Bitcoin and crypto. Now, on one side of the coin, Bitcoin is at elevated price levels and it's holding steady. Now, Tim, last Technical Tuesdays, we both gave the prediction that we would come down. I gave the prediction that we would come down to 64K, and I think you said that you had a similar level. We're sitting there today. It's been 1 week and we've had a pretty strong pullback. When we broke that 69K, that's when I put it on the table that, the next support level below is 64. Took us a week to get there. Here we are at 64K, and I'll just tell the family up front that if 64 breaks down, the next support that I see beneath that is roughly 60. I'm just giving you round numbers. Could hit 59, 500, but roughly it's 60. And then beneath that, I think I had something like 47, 48, 49, somewhere in that range. We have a nice little drop. But here's the bottom line. At the moment, Bitcoin is holding steady. And Tim, I've been looking at the charts. You and I have not talked about this in advance of the show, but I can tell you that there is a consistent head and shoulder pattern on the weekly time frame for a number of the legacy large altcoins. So in general, if I'm just taking a step back, the weekly time frame, legacy coins that have already come down, never really popped a lot. They're looking ugly as can be right now, Tim. So I want us, this is going to be a lightning Technical Tuesdays. We're going to go through some here, but just give me your overall thoughts, Tim, on crypto right now. We are holding up, but are we at the precipice of rolling over and hitting a new low in this next week?
So are you saying a new low for altcoins as a whole?
No, I'm saying right now, let's start with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin came down to the level we called. Roughly, I called 64. I think if you look at the wicks on the candle, we hit 64 on, right on the head, and we got a little bit of a bounce. Now I'm saying to everybody that 64 is support, and it is possible that we could go higher from here. But if we do break 64, I'm telling everybody the next destination is 60. Now, take that, put that on the shelf for a minute. The altcoins are looking horrendous. Now, not all of them, but the legacy altcoins are looking ugly as could be. And they look even worse when you compare them, when you do a Bitcoin, let's say ADA pair. It just shows absolute weakness. And so I know a lot of people own the legacy coins. A lot of them didn't make the shift into some of the newer, faster moving car projects. And so right now, if Bitcoin falls down to 60 and the alts are already in the gutter, the fact is they can fall further, causing a ton of pain. That's my big picture view. Now, I know I'm starting off with a little bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We're starting off a little bit of fear. But I'm just curious your take at the moment. We got to process these emotions. What do you think right now of your portfolio and Bitcoin, where it stands, and the alts that are on the edge? Some of them are on the edge technically.
For the most part, I would say I'm probably, if you were going to say, Tim, how much have you invested into crypto versus your current level? I think I'm still pretty heavily in the green. But if you ask me, Tim, what's your crypto portfolio look like from 4 weeks ago? It's heavily in the red. Obviously, altcoins, some of them down more than 50%. I even told my audience today on my live show, look for a lot of these altcoins. And I like the term, I never use that term, but legacy coins. Some of them I think could end up being closer to 65 to 70% down from their highs of this bull run before the correction and the bullishness comes back. My perspective on crypto as a whole right now, I remain long-term. Let's talk about for the next year and some change. I remain long-term bullish, but in the short term, meaning the next couple of days, maybe the next couple of weeks, I'm still bearish. And I'll tell you one of the things that's causing me to stay bearish, at least for the next about 10 days. In 10 days, on the 28th, there's another options expiry for Bitcoin that the max pain point, which is a very critical level to watch, it's at $55,000 for Bitcoin. I don't think we're going to drop below it. However, it's very normal when you have options expiries for the market makers to make things interesting. And ultimately, whales and long-term holders, if they can buy a discount, they're going to take advantage of that. So while right now we're sitting at 65, and I'm not saying we're going to drop all the way to 55, because we're so far away, they have to be pumping the market right now with a lot of fear, convincing some of the shorter term owners to sell so they can dip price down. I think you and I, Josh, again, people might call us liars. We don't talk before the show, but I think you and I are sitting in a very similar boat right now. We hit our 64 last week. I told my audience I have a zone, a pocket between about 62.7 where there's some interesting liquidity, but ultimately I think we can make it back down to 60,000, and I still see that as being a long-term very bullish higher low on the price action, but that is where I see prices going. And if Bitcoin falls to that level, if Bitcoin goes to $60,000, the altcoins aren't going to be saved and just sit on the sideline and watch it. They're going to drop as well. And that would be another move for Bitcoin. If I'm looking at my chart, we're talking about another potential 5 to 6% for Bitcoin. In the altcoin world, that means closer to 10 to 20% for some of these altcoins. There's more blood coming potentially, and I'm getting ready to buy up some more of that dip.
Yeah, you said something that I completely agree with, is that overall we're actually sitting bullishly. I'm working to pull up my chart real quick for everybody. I want to get it on the weekly time frame. But yeah, all that's happening right now is if we were to come down the way that you described, is that we'd be simply making a higher low, which is not bad in the market. So one thing I want you to get ready, Tim, as soon as I'm done going over my chart, is I want us to pull up, when you can, let me go back. I want to pull up the total market cap of Bitcoin and the alts combined, and kind of take a look at how that's sitting at the moment. Stock Up with Larry Jones is in the house. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Jones, always appreciate that guy. He says he's waiting for another dip to buy more. And, I would tell you that I completely agree. I'm getting excited because I took some profits, and anything I took profits on, I'm excited to buy cheaper. Anything I held, I am regretting holding, but you're going to have some bags you hold. And so obviously they're suffering, they're coming down. But anything that I took profits on, like Ondo and Brett, I gave notices in the Stock Squad Discord on Brett. I was scaling out right at the top. Now it's come down quite a bit, and I'm loving the opportunity to get back in it. But I want to be careful that I get in when there's enough blood in the streets. But let me just jump into my chart real quick on Bitcoin so you guys can see what I'm looking at. So, we're going to keep things really simple here. I'm going to show you guys that we have a very clear and obvious head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders pattern on the daily time frame. So if we were to come back to 60, in my mind, this would be a very reasonable spot for this to bounce. Let me just throw some things out there. And we have tested this general range of around 72,000. We've tested it 5 times. The last pattern that we got, and I absolutely am a pattern trader, the last pattern we got was a bearish double top, right? And we confirmed and broke and even back tested it today, guys. So I don't know if you guys, let me just zoom in and show you what that looks like, okay? Let's just zoom in on that. So we have this bearish double top. Right, so here is the structure. I'll just go through this with you because make this like a little learning opportunity. So the way that these get confirmed is the break of the lowest price between the two tops, right? And that is roughly right here at 67. So there's the valley, right? There's the rejection, the second bear. That candle's got a tall wick on it. We came down. We initially fell beneath it, but it recovered. Right, so then it kind of gave us another fake rally, gave us another bearish candle right here. So we got these 2 bearish candles with high wicks, and this candle on the daily time frame, it pushed above, but then it came back beneath that critical level of 65. Then we came under the neckline of the bearish double top. We back tested it twice, making another smaller bearish top. And so this was pretty obvious that we were going to end up in the boat that we're in and moving down. So if you're a confirmation trader, Bitcoin has been screaming ever since May 20th. It made a top May 20th, and really ever since, I'd say, June 4th. Now it's been pulling back and telling us that it's going to pull back. So the way that we want to see this play out is we want to ultimately, let me get my tools here. We want to see it bounce on 60. It'll come back. It'll struggle at around 71. we could see it backtest 68, but this is when we would make the new high when we were to make that move. So I would be very surprised if we didn't come down to 60, and that's kind of my prediction for the week. And Tim and I are pretty consistent about making accurate predictions from week to week. If I were out there, on my own in the crypto wilds, I would be tuning in to Technical Tuesdays with Tim over crypto, because we're making these predictions and they're playing out. Mine at the moment is I just don't see how we don't come back and get that 60. I don't have a crystal ball. The chart's bearish. We've come down a lot at 64, and so I've got to keep it open for either a bounce or a fake out bounce. But I want to save some money so that if we do get back down to that 60, and that's where things get really dire. That's when it's just, more blood in the street, more blood than right now. The legacy coins have absolutely crapped out at that point. They're already on the edge today. And then perhaps it all goes back up together in strength. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I'm complete agreement on that one. And that's kind of what I'm watching. If you share my screen, I'll give people another reason potentially at the moment to be bullish here. Let me go actually this one. Not only is that inverse head and shoulders pattern in play, which, by the way, in case anyone was wondering, the breakout target for that from the bottom of the head up to that neckline around 72, that would be a breakout to Bitcoin at $92,000, something I'm definitely watching. But another one is a potential ascending triangle in play, that this actually would send price above 100K. This would take us upwards to about 102,000, give or take, in price action. But what I found funny, and I was showing my audience today, I see a couple of the names in here that watch both our shows.
Hey, Tim, can I just have you pause?
Yep, absolutely.
I just want to tell you, I love the technicals that you just dropped in 60 seconds. Those are killer technicals. Thank you. Everybody, if you think Tim's doing a good job in adding value to this page, one, please hit the like right now. Let's show him some love. And two, make sure you check out his page, Investing Bros. Okay, fire back up, man.
Boom. All right, so I'm going to kind of speed this because I want to get into some other alts as well. But there's an historical precedence around halving events, right before them, a little bit after them, for ascending triangles. That's a flat top of resistance, in this case around 72,000, and a rising level of support with, as support right now, right around 60,000. There's historical analysis that says these come right before massive rallies in Bitcoin. Let me show you, going back to previous halving events, starting back with the one way back here, back in the year 2012. This is the bottom of the bear market in 2011. We come up. We start a level of resistance here on $14, which is crazy that we're talking about resistance on Bitcoin at $14. But you see a rising level of support here. We would go on to break out a couple of months after this halving event. Of course, we would go shoot up to new highs, explosive bull market. You move over here to before the halving event of 2016. Same thing happens here. We explode to not new highs for Bitcoin, but new highs for the bull market at this point. Then you have a bouncing here with a flat top around 474, but rising level of support. All this happens pre-halving event, but again, the breakout moves to the upside. We never drop back down below 474. We would go on to have an explosive bull market. This one, you have to stretch the imagination, but my ultimate thought here, there's kind of a flat top in the zone of 10,000. We fall down to 647. If COVID had never happened, this is the COVID dip. What I noticed about COVID is we really should have some form of a support level right along this zone right here. Notice that zone also kind of works as resistance as we're building back up in COVID. But that's kind of, if COVID is taken out of the equation, we also had an ascending triangle here during the 2020 halving event. So what's funny is we've seen all of these happen before around the halvings, and sure enough, once again, another repeat of history. It's too early to call this a 100% ascending triangle. Let's get the bounce at 60K and come back up. But it does look a lot like we could be seeing a repeat of history and another ascending triangle right around the halving event that could send Bitcoin price again up over $100,000.
Yeah, so a couple things, Tim. Maybe you could just give us a visual or just check it on your chart. What I want to point out is that this Bitcoin move is still going sideways, and we're in a range. And there's actually a ton of time in that triangle. Would you quickly run a date chart just to see how much time we could potentially wiggle our way through the middle of that triangle? Tim, what does that look like on your end?
So like where we could get to the point of it?
Yeah. So yeah, from where
Yeah.
we're at today to, let's just say, the point. What that would put us into September.
Yeah, this could take into September, and this is something that before I even drew this triangle, I actually can delete it because I have some other things in play. I told people on the Investing Bros channel back in March when we were hitting new highs, I said, do not be surprised to dip into the halving event. That happened, and then I drew this yellow box. Surprised to watch Bitcoin range between 72 and 60,000 with a couple of wicks above and below, but range until August, September. And then boom, I didn't notice this formation until today. I was doing this analysis today. The confirmation and confluence here of the timeline is a little uncanny. I'm continuing to think there's a chance that Bitcoin holders get frustrated because there's no new fireworks or no new highs until August or September. But when that happens, oh, boys and girls, watch those prices go up, up, up and to the right. It's just a matter of patience at this point to wait for those events to happen.
Yeah, and so this, I want to take a minute and talk about this, that what I'm seeing in crypto and so Bitcoin, I was going to title the video today, Bitcoin High and Steady. Now, I like the title and it made sense to me, Tim, but instead I titled it Bitcoin What's Next? Because what I want people to understand, first, if I tell them it's high and steady and then in the next 3 days it drops to 60, they'll be like, Josh, it's not high, it's not steady. It went down today. Yeah. But it is high and it is steady. And Tim did say when we got to the halving show, got to the halving a couple months back, and him and I did a show, he drew that box. I remember, and we talked about it going sideways for quite a while before building the momentum. I also shared on my show that from a top crypto analyst that is managing billions and billions of dollars money, he said the same thing in a client letter to his to his investors. He said, I see Bitcoin not having the momentum right now to make a major move higher, like to 100K. That I see it needing to build momentum over time. And we've got all these indicators, like we saw the miners capitulated, and that was kind of good news. And sometimes the miners capitulating does signal a reversal moment. But I'm going to tell you that I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't consider it going out on a limb, but I'm just saying that so that you guys would just bend your ears in a little bit. I really think that we are moving sideways. We're moving sideways, and we're making higher lows, right? And we're making really a flat top. We're making really flat highs at the moment, and I think we're going to continue to bounce between that range. Tim and I are telling you guys that neither one of us see why we won't go down to 60 right now. And even if we popped up a little bit, I would still say that the trend is probably going to come back and hit that ascending line in the triangle that Tim showed you. And even if we were to make our way back up to 72, it would be a fake out. I think we're going to continue to go sideways, testing the bottom of the range, testing the ascending line of support until we get later into the, you could say, early fall, late summer, and possibly move into what we'd call a real attempt at a higher move. Now, that's just what I see today. Let's take a look, Tim. Were you able to pull up the total Bitcoin market cap for Bitcoin and alts? Let's just pop that up real quick. And
let's do it. Yeah. No, ultimately, something that's playing out in right now, I actually charted this. I don't know if I charted it here on your show, but I charted this definitely on my channel. This is the total crypto market cap right now. Something that we're doing, I think we're close to hitting the breakout point of this channel. Let's kind of draw this. Yeah. Okay, so just today we hit it. We moved into a small consolidation phase back here between May 20th and until we broke out about here June 11th. So almost a month of sideways action, rejecting around 2.5 trillion, finding support around 2.4 trillion, and then we broke out. And a lot of times when you see a breakout on a horizontal trading range, you just take the opening of that range, you move it over to the breakout, and we have now come down. This one, let me get that really late because I did that. We've come down today and dropped a little bit lower, but technically we've actually now we played out the bearish breakout that we had predicted here on total crypto market cap. So I'm not saying the bottom's in. I think we could go further to the upside, but it is something to keep an eye on that we played that one out. The other thing I would say here is we were in a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders pattern here as well more recently. This one, I think that we ended up hitting that one, or at least got close to hitting that one as well. Depending on where you draw it, you could actually make an argument you should go from the candle body closes, but that one I think we hit here as well. So this one, I say all that because that doesn't tell me the future. It just tells me we're respecting technical analysis very well right now on the total crypto market cap. So let's kind of dive in and see what we're looking at. We're coming down to a very strong level of support. Why do I say it's a strong level of support? Well, even though we broke below this blue cloud, we call this the smart trail, and it's a strong level of support. We broke below it. We have a very strong order block in play right now, mixed with this take profit right here between $2.2 to $2.17 trillion. We're very, very close, but this is also part of the reason why I don't think that the dip is necessarily over. I think Bitcoin can continue to dip further. I think altcoins can continue to dip further. But I have been telling people this, and I don't know what your thoughts are, Josh. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What I'm seeing right now makes me say that I think we're not at the bottom of the crypto pullback yet, but we're a lot closer than a lot of people think.
Yeah, and we're going to see coins show relative strength, and we're going to see coins show relative weakness, and that's going to take us into our next segment. We're going to look at some of the legacy coins. I know that, let me know in the comment section if there's one in particular that you guys want us to cover. I also wanted to shout out a couple people. I wanted to thank Klondike Mike for the super chat. Thank you, appreciate you. Heavy Bonk, No Cash. Would you sell, re-enter, or hold? You know, I was talking to Mark, Tribal Traders, right before I came on the show, and he made a comment that was very interesting. Now, I want to say this empathetically because I've made every mistake that you guys have ever made. And the answer to that question is that you shouldn't be in the situation that you're in right now. And so rather than, I know that the most immediate area of pain is to figure out what to do with the trade you're in, but a lot of people did not take profits, okay? And I gave very clear profit-taking signals in my Discord, the Stock Squad Discord. I gave very clear profit-taking signals on Ondo. Very clear. I literally said, guys, selling bags at $1.33. Chart, we're forming the right side of the shoulder. Raise your stop loss. One guy said in the comments, Tim, to me today, said I was up $5,000 on Ondo. Now I'm still up, but I've lost a lot of that gain. So guys, you can't put yourself in the situation. If you find yourself selling the lows and buying the highs, don't stop and let's reassess what's happening. So Tim and I are telling you that we've come back to support at 64. We could easily pop here. Now, what I call pop, it means come up a little bit because we hit support. Now we come back up and we see if we get a rejection candle a little higher, but then we might continue down to 60. So both Tim and I think, are talking about the fact that we have not hit the total pain that we could hit, but we did hit support, and it will bounce a little bit at support. And so if you're looking for a little bit of relief on one of your altcoin trades, you might get that here with a little bit of bounce that we get. But if you are not looking at the big picture, then you're just going to find yourself in more pain like a week later when we come down to 60K on Bitcoin. That's, we don't have a crystal ball, but that's what I want to caution you for. So at this moment, I am a buyer of crypto now, but I'm buying it with my buy orders divided up over time, and I'm going back to the hot cryptos, the ones that pay the most and the ones that have been showing relative strength. Let me just take you guys into a news article that we have got to cover today. And you guys have probably seen it out there. Former Binance CEO, CZ, who I believe is sitting in prison, holds 64% of the BNB supply, Forbes reported. Now that is worth, I believe, so it's worth, so I'll read this to you. Former Binance CEO, CZ, reportedly owns 64% Binance Coins BNB 608 circulating supply, or roughly 94 million BNB tokens, A Forbes report revealed analytics discovered that the Binance founding team received 80 million BNB tokens, of which the business still controls 46 million. The Binance Exchange's native coin BNB is utilized on the Binance platform for rewards and fees. At $600 per token, BNB has a market capitalization of more than 91 billion as of right now. This guy is holding, I believe, somewhere north of $60 billion of BNB. And here's the concern, is that a lot of people are into legacy coins. Now, I've called this a buy in the past. In the winter, we accumulated BNB when it was down in the gutter, and we've had a really, really nice return on it. But about 6 months ago, 4 to 6 months ago, I began to sound the alarm to dump the legacy coins because one of the biggest issues is locked supply, either founders that are holding on to it, and it's holding a wet blanket over these legacy coins. You know, really what it comes down to is tokenomics, and we've got this evolution of coins with a better communicated strategy of how they're going to release those coins into the wild. And we've got the legacy tokenomics, which were great in the last cycle. Everybody was accepting them as sort of a standard, but in this new cycle, it's created a new standard. And there's too many of these coins. Me and Mark, Tim talked about this last week with XRP, that they were dumping $1 billion of XRP every month for the next 55 months, trying to push out, and they've just been selling into the strength of this entire crypto bull run that we've been in so far, and that's why they've not really been participating with a lot of the other coins, even though they've come up off their lows. And so let's go through, Tim. I'm going to let you lead. We're going to try to hit as many of the legacy coins as we can. I want to just quickly, I want to acknowledge Klondike Mike for that super chat, and I want to acknowledge Pedro Ramirez for his super chat. Thank you, guys. And you guys can let us know in the chat which legacy coins you want us to take the time to cover. And there's two things I want from you. I need you to drop those likes so this video can get pushed out to more viewers, which means I got a goal. Me and Tim's got his own personal goal for his channel, but I've got a friend goal for Investing Bros. I want to see his channel get to 40,000 subscribers very, very quickly. And you know what? When you hit the like, you make that possible because it pushes this video out to more people that have never seen this video. And that ultimately exposes people to Tim's, I think, top shelf technicals. And so right now we're at 387 likes. And I think I need to feel like a 600 would be a reasonable position, guys. Throw them likes in there for us. All right. And, so let's pull up. Let me see what people are asking for. People are asking for Ondo. That's a new coin. They're asking for Jasmy. I consider that a meme coin. Let's go with Avalanche. Let's start off with Avalanche. Now, I like Avalanche. Let's see what Tim thinks about it.
Yeah, hey, I love Avalanche.
Hey, Tim, can I? Well, before you even begin, you see that ugly head and shoulders pattern on Avalanche now, don't you?
I do, and you're gonna see this. I bet you the more and more we look through, you're gonna see this pattern on a lot of things. I want people to know: is there a chance that ends up playing out to its true brutality? Yes, there is. At the moment, Josh, I never trade or make moves based off of one singular reason. I want to always see confluence. And I have a sneaky suspicion. I'll chart it out and we'll show you what the possibility is. But I have a sneaky suspicion that is something that's not going to come true. And anyone who waits for it might be disappointed because they don't get that far of a dip. However, what is happening on Avax right now? Let's start off. Let's just start off. And this is, if for no other reason, this is just some good education for anyone who wants to go deeper into learning technical analysis. What we're talking about here, a head and shoulders pattern, we have ourselves a nice looking left shoulder, a head, and even though it wasn't as high, let's just say he has an injury to his right shoulder, we still have a nice pop-up right here that makes that a right shoulder. So we have the two shoulders and a higher head. The neckline, I'm going to actually go to the handlebar close right here and move it across. It's a better neckline than necessarily trying to drop. Oop, did not get rid of my marker. Then trying to drop it down here, it's a little more slanted. This, to me, is a good-looking neckline. Now, whether you're doing an inverse head and shoulders pattern or a head and shoulders pattern, once you've identified the shoulders and the head and the neckline, to get a breakout prediction, you're going to want to go from the head. I'll go from the candle body close on this one down to the neckline. What's the length of that movement? You then move that line over to the breakout from the neckline extended, and this would give AVAX a price prediction of falling all the way down to $15. Now, that would be, let's just kind of turn in and think about what that would mean. That would be another 42% drop from today's prices, a task that would be very hard to accomplish. That would make it a 76% fall from the top of this bull cycle so far. Not impossible, but once again, a tall order. And it also would kind of obliterate a lot of different levels of support that I think are important. One of which, I've told my audience, I don't think we're done falling right now, but here around $22, $23, that to me looks very important based off of the historical level of resistance that is played in this role. And now we have an amazing opportunity to turn this form of resistance into support. If I turn on my Luxago indicators, I'm also going to find this level is going to be sitting right here between our take profit levels on Luxago. It's also going to be right there kind of in the middle of this nice green support wave as well. I think if I remember straight on the 8-hour chart, yeah, on the 8-hour chart, if I come down here and get a little bit short of a timeline, this is the more aggressive, $23 is the more aggressive take profit for AVAX as well. So kind of wrapping this up, I cannot promise anybody that we won't go down here. There's a chance that $15 is hit on AVAX. But am I going to bet on that with a high probability? Not necessarily. I believe there's way more confluence at the moment for a move to come down to 22, 23. And so that's my level that I'm looking to scoop up some more AVAX with some of my dry powder. But it'll be very interesting to watch. The last thing I want to say here before anyone, just decides like, hey, there are some head and shoulders that are worth watching. There's others that'll get you obliterated. I myself might have a little bit of trauma when it comes to crypto head and shoulders pattern here recently, because while I've been calling the cycle for crypto pretty well, there are a couple things that I go back and I'll fully admit that I obliterated. And one of the ones that I obliterated, and it cost me probably thousands of dollars, I'm back in now, but I was watching Bitcoin way back here between March of 23 to the explosion of October of 2023. And you guys tell me, based off of what we just talked about, tell me you don't see yourself a nice left shoulder, right head that goes higher, and a potential for a right shoulder to be in play. I was pretty certain that Bitcoin, after the fake news that came out back in October, would keel over and end up going to the downside. Well, oh goodness, was I wrong. There was so much more in the space that ended up being bullish. We ended up breaking to the upside, and this head and shoulders pattern ended up failing. So ultimately, what I kind of want you guys to walk away with is there a chart on here that says a head and shoulders is in play? Absolutely there is. But when it comes to formations, especially in the crypto world, make sure you don't just make any trade or investing decisions off of a formation alone. Make sure that it checks out with other things such as sentiment, such as other levels of support and resistance, and other potential technical analysis callouts that give us a similar level. At this point, I don't think that $15 is in the cards for AVAX, but maybe I'll be wrong once again.
Let's throw up the trading pair for AVAX and Bitcoin just to look at how that's been performing. And then I want us to jump into the Solana chart real quick.
All right, so this is AVAX. If anyone ever wonders how you look up an altcoin over Bitcoin, you want to compare it, just in the ticker symbol, just type the ticker of the coin and then throw on BTC over it instead of USD. We are definitely declining here on AVAX over Bitcoin, looking like we're potentially heading back to levels that we were at in October. This is not uncommon for this period of the altcoin season and Bitcoin season for altcoins to be bleeding against Bitcoin. In fact, because of this chart right here, I'm going to come back to AVAX over Bitcoin. Because of this chart right here, Bitcoin dominance continue to go to the upside, and I believe we'll hit 60%. That's going to cause almost every single thing over Bitcoin to be declining right now.
Let's do this. You're great content, Tim. Great content. I wanted to give us. So you see that? You see the low that we had last time around, that 29. Okay,
Yes.
now go to the peak. Go to the peak right to the left of it. To the left of it.
Mhm.
No, to the left of the low.
Oh,
Yes.
the
Now
left right here,
drop a trend line right there.
like a horizontal one,
Yeah.
like this.
Can you make it easier to? Yeah, perfect. All right. And so we've broken that trend line, right?
Yes.
Now drop a trend line to the low of the trend line you just dropped. No, to the low. Go to the left. All right, down right there. All right, so this is sort of the window that we're in, and I would suggest that if we don't quickly recover out of this window, we've got some structure there. I don't believe that we would make a low down to the 3029, but I do believe it would be possible to get to 3032. You can see that we actually have done this a couple times. And so we did break a pretty significant threshold there on Solana, which means that it's currently showing that it's in decline. We could watch for it to recover. I do believe that we're going to make a higher low. But personally, let's just comment here. Both of us agree that Bitcoin is still in a dominant trend, which means that we don't have the altcoin season move yet. But I personally would view this very similarly, that I'm averaging into Solana at this point because of the coming altcoin rally. It's pulled back quite a bit, but we're getting near some very interesting levels. Wouldn't you agree, Tim?
Now, this is, I just want to make sure, maybe you're misspeaking. This is AVAX over Bitcoin. Are you talking about AVAX or Solana?
You know what? I had Solana in my mind because I wanted to go there next. But yes,
Okay,
AVAX.
gotcha.
And I would say the same thing about AVAX as well.
Yes, and that's why I thought that you were just missaying it. I'm in complete agreement with you with that as well. But I want people to know, anyone who's confused or frustrated with altcoins, this is actually very normal. I don't know how many we're going to go into, so I'm going to show you this real quickly. For example, Cardano over Bitcoin. People are looking at how far we are down since this top back in September of 2021. They're saying, oh no, we're freaking out. What's happening here? I want you guys to look at the last time we were at this same level. This was December/January. So December of 2020, January of 2021. This right here, this date, corresponds borderline perfectly with the former altcoin season. If I come back here to Bitcoin dominance, again, this tells us a lot about when altcoins start to run. Take a look at where Bitcoin dominance peaked out and then fell off a cliff. Right here, December of 2020. If you go back to Cardano, so this is not Cardano over Bitcoin, this is Cardano over US dollar. We started rallying even before then, but when we get into December and January, this is when Cardano took off. We were already bullish, but it went from being very boring, very methodical. A lot of people were thinking, man, Cardano's just not doing much. So it would go on to be the most explosive altcoin during the 2021 market. I say all that to say when we're looking through these altcoin symbols over Bitcoin, don't be upset or surprised that they're super low. The reason why is because it's not altcoin season just yet. It is still very much Bitcoin season, where the dominance on Bitcoin will be climbing and the altcoins over Bitcoin will be falling. But just like back here, we were dropping. December and January hit, and of course, Cardano would go on to explode compared to Bitcoin's price over the next about 9 to 10 months. It would explode to the upside. That's what altcoin season brings. And so I just want to make sure people understand, having high expectation for altcoins is not fair because it's not an altcoin season just yet. If we get to December, January, and Cardano or AVAX or any of these other coins are still not performing well, then we can have a good conversation about altcoins potentially not performing well. But until we get there, it's just not the right season for altcoins to be gaining back dominance over Bitcoin.
Tim, throw up on your chart. I want to make a point here about relative strength and the legacy coins versus the current hot altcoins. Throw up the Ondo, Bitcoin versus Ondo chart. Guys, remember what this looks like here, and then we're going to get a picture of what relative strength looks like.
There's not going to be a lot of history here because it's a brand new coin. We only are going back. Let's see, that's not going to give me my full history here. There's not probably a lot here to get. Yeah, okay, I got the best one right there.
Can you go a 4 hour?
Yeah, 4 hours is going to give us a lot more information. There we go.
Yeah, so there's not really a lot of information to go by here. We don't really have the history, I
Not a
guess,
lot.
to make the point that I wanted to. Let's get a couple other legacy coins. Let's not look at the pairs. Let's just do some quick charting and look at weekly support, Tim. Let's go through. Let's do Link real quick.
Yeah.
We did Avax and ADA. Let's look at the weekly Lux support level that it's targeting at the moment.
Yeah, so I have not taken a look at the weekly here on Chainlink. In terms right now on the weekly, not a lot here in play as far as Luxor go until you get all the way down to an order block and the take profit coming all the way back down to below $7. I mean, that's where the first take profit's sitting right there. That, I think, is a little far to think that Chainlink's going to drop. But on the daily chart, a lot of support where we currently are actually on Chainlink. If I can get this there we go. Right now, you can see we bounced off of not only the daily take profit on Luxago, you also see a very bullish order block in play. However, if that does get lost, I told my audience actually earlier today, if we continue to move to the downside, $12 is a very interesting spot to keep, not only because it's a former level of resistance we could turn into support, but also there's on high block, if you take a look at high block, and look at link liquidations here on a monthly scale. For the most part, the majority, actually go up to the 3-month chart. For the most part, the majority of longs have been destroyed, but there's this little pocket that bears could continue to chase all the way down to about $12. Once you drop below this level, there's not a strong incentive for traders to put more bearish pressure. There's actually a lot more incentive to go ahead and make the price rally and get rid of short liquidation. So at the moment, I think Chainlink is sitting on a very strong level of support, but there is a chance $12 in the cards. This is another one, guys. I showed you guys on AVAX. This is a textbook head and shoulders pattern. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. But once again, there's still a lot of reasons to be more bullish than bearish, and we'll see how this plays out. But in theory, I'll do the mathematical equation for you guys. In theory, we could see Chainlink, if this plays out, dropping back down. Actually, finding some confluence here on the weekly chart. I'll tell you, I'm going to be very surprised if this comes to play. But technically speaking, we have two different things calling for roughly about $6.70.
Yeah, but I'm in agreement with you, Tim. We're going to come back and do Ethereum real quick. But I'm in agreement with you that I don't see these head and shoulder patterns playing out on the altcoins. I do, though, see that we're going to remain under pressure, and that when we do potentially come down to 60K on Bitcoin, we're going to be given some flash sales. And I made this point with Mark from Tribal Traders that people need to begin to feather in or layer in their buy orders, and they need to set at some unrealistic targets because I think that crypto moves quickly, and if we get a flash sell, a dump, a capitulation moment, you'd be amazed what your orders could pick up. And I would say that that one of the best examples, Tim, and I'm going to take people into it, one of the very best examples ever of a head and shoulders pattern not playing out is actually NVIDIA last year. Let me see if I can pull that up in my chart real quick here. This was one of the greatest examples of it not working out. Let me just do a quick change here. Excuse me. I've got stuff going on with my computer. All right, let me pull up NVIDIA.
Yeah, I think I see what you're looking at.
So this was honestly one of the most, the biggest fake outs the market ever gave us. So we had a very obvious, shoulder, head, shoulder, and we came down to this neckline at the time it was $400, and we did break it on the daily. But let me explain how these work. They have to have a candle open and close beneath it. And sometimes people will say that if you want to be cautious, you want to get 2 candles to open and close beneath it. Now I've got the weekly on here. But when on the second day, so the second candle that was going to open and close beneath it and confirm a potential, essentially a potential drop down to structure, which would have been like 350, which was the previous all-time high, instead shot up like a rocket ship, formed a essentially a bullish pattern, shot up again, and that's been the history ever since. And so even though you want to watch these, you want to really be mindful that they could be setting up perfectly at the neckline for a couple fake out moves beneath, only for those to be the very best buying opportunities, because the head and shoulders pattern is only good. It has an 80% success rate once it confirms. If it doesn't confirm, it gets canceled and it's off to the races. So let's do Ethereum real quick. I'm gonna let you pull it up just so that we can move quickly with time. Let's look at the daily and weekly support using Lux Algo, and then let me take a minute and share with them what that is.
Yeah, so at the moment, daily support, we're on it right now. This blue cloud, a smart trail support level, is being defended. We've seen several other altcoins and Bitcoin, for example, break through this blue cloud. So Ethereum has that potential, but it does seem like Ethereum right now has a little bit of bullish juice, more so than the rest of the crypto space. Not enough to take too much dominance away from Bitcoin, but enough to keep that support level. If that's lost, I'm looking for potentially. This is just hard for me to imagine here too. I think it's going to be defended. The next stop you're looking at is back down here around 2,900. I myself am just not necessarily believing that's going to be in play here. I think there's a good chance we end up defending this level. But on the daily chart, really nothing sitting between where we currently are and if that gets lost of something coming back down to 2,900. On the weekly chart, we're going to see a longer time thing, kind of maybe some confluence. The weekly blue cloud smart trail is coming in. It's rising up here, but it's kind of coming in around similar levels, around 2,900. However, we are currently still on Ethereum under a weekly buy order that we have not hit to take profit on. That buy order would put the price up here between 4,400 and about 5,000. So I myself, on the short term, even if I think Ethereum could drop a little bit back, maybe even back down to 3,300, I think we continue to defend this smart trail. More of a reason for upside movement for Ethereum than downside.
All right, let me address a question here or a comment from Nee. And I think it's a reasonable statement. Let me share my thoughts with you guys on it. Josh, you're kind of shifting boats. You said Bitcoin is kind of aligned with the S&P 500 and we should move with it. Now you're saying sideways. So let me explain my thoughts on that. Now we have made the all-time high that I have been calling and predicting for the S&P 500. We're essentially there today. We got to 5,500 on the SPX. Now, I will say that Bitcoin is moving with the NASDAQ. And the fact is, that's why I wanted to title the show Bitcoin High and Steady. But what we are at the point at the top of my ascending wedge, right? We're at the point where we're touching the top of the wedge. And it's more likely, it's not been confirmed yet, that we're going to pull back and go back to test the bottom. Now, in a 3-month window, that's Bitcoin leading the S&P a little bit. And I've noticed that Bitcoin does, we can't trade the S&P over the weekend, but Bitcoin often gives us a signal as to what the market's thinking because they can act on crypto and alts. And so what they're going to do Monday, you tend to see them do potentially Saturday and Sunday. And so I think that what we're seeing with Bitcoin is we're seeing it lead the S&P 500, mostly aligned. They're both high, they're both steady. But we're going to see the S&P begin to move sideways. And, I had predicted that once we got to the top of the channel, that we could see as much as a 10% correction in the S&P. And the fact is that we are still seeing some downturn with Bitcoin. But I think largely, if you look at it from a big picture view, this is a market that's going to be in distribution and move sideways. Now, are we going to get a major capitulation moment sometime this year? At the moment, I don't see that. I'd have to get to the bottom of my trend lines and see it break down because, the fact is we've got AI is still very strong. NVIDIA doing the heavy lifting of the market. You don't want to be betting against this market when NVIDIA is breaking onto new highs. But at the moment, even though Bitcoin is preceding the market and it is down a little bit, the fact is we are still up at the top end of the range. We're not in the gutter. If we were down beneath 50K on Bitcoin, then I would say that they're unaligned. I think that the market's going to follow Bitcoin's lead here shortly, and we're going to have some sideways movement over there. But that's why I think we're going sideways.
Yeah, if you want to share my screen here, Josh, I mean, you can show things here. This is something on TradingView. You can compare charts, and there's little differences here. But as a whole, if you're looking between the dates November of 2021 and November of 2022, both of these charts are moving downwards. If you're looking from this bottom position to where we currently are, as a whole, both of them are moving upwards. Are there little pockets of times where they diverge? Absolutely. I mean, right in here, you're going to see on a small time frame between July and October, the NASDAQ traded down. Oh, with the wrong tool there. Sorry about that, guys. We traded down during this phase. At the same time, Bitcoin traded to the upside. So even though there's a split right now, if you were to take a look at the last, moved my thing around a little too much. There you go. Even though there's a split in the last little bit, even this, that kind of plays it out perfectly. We're correcting over the last week and a half, but look at the pullback from back here in April 30th. Both of them are still setting higher lows here. So are things going to match and perfect day in and day out and week in and week out? No, not necessarily. But when you take a bird's eye view like this and you take a look at the comparisons, they're still looking very, very similar. I know Josh just talked about this. I think he's dead on. I think you're going to see a little bit of a correction in the NASDAQ, potentially come back down, and maybe we see Bitcoin at the same time rally back up. But then the NASDAQ will rally and Bitcoin will rally, and they will stay on this very similar pattern that they've been on, where when we're looking at macro, oh my gosh, this is moving. But you can unshare my screen. The macro movements are extremely similar. It's simply the micro movements where sometimes they diverge for a couple of weeks.
All right, we're gonna come and give one meme coin. You know, I personally love to cover Doge because it's one of my favorite, but I'm not going to today. We're going to have to leave that because I want to give some love to SHIB. I want to give some love to some of the coins that we haven't been covering. Now, SHIB is a legacy coin. So is Doge. It's a legacy meme. And obviously, Pepe has been the big winner, guys. There's not a doubt about it that if you didn't get some money into Pepe and Floki, you've not participated in the biggest, strongest moves of this crypto cycle. But let's take a minute and let's give some hope for the SHIB owners. SHIB is gonna run with Ethereum. Ethereum is got running legs ahead of it still. Let's just take a minute. Before we do that, let me just touch on it. Let's do a quick station break. The likes are they need to be a little bit higher. I want to show some love, fam. You guys appreciate all your presence today. I also want to shout out Tim's page, Investing Bros. If you're new to my page, or if you're new to Tim's, please hit that subscribe. And I also want to talk briefly about my Discord. Tim, I've launched my own private Discord, and yesterday it was off like a rocket ship. Tons of members joining, and I think it's a great community, and I've got some great folks in there today. Now, after this show, we're going to post some video on Lux Algo. We're going to go into the oscillator and we're going to do a tutorial on it. We're going to do that in the Stock Squad Patreon, and we're going to do that in this Chart Goat University Patreon. But guys, there's a link for that. If you're not a member of that, there's a link for both in the description of the video. Let's just end things off with a little bit of love for some SHIB. Let's go into that chart, Tim.
Yeah, there's some good stuff kind of popping up here on SHIB. If you ignore some of the explosive wicks and you really are just watching mostly candle bodies here since this big explosion back in March, we're in a descending channel. And I know I preach this to my community, and I've been on with Stocks with Josh long enough to know he preaches this to you guys as well. Which way do you usually break when you're in a descending channel?
Come on.
More often than not, you go to the upside. The other thing I'm watching, this yellow line, we're not quite to the bottom yet, similar to almost everything else I've talked about in crypto. I don't think we're bottomed out yet, but this yellow line, take a look at how many times in the past this zone has been used as resistance. It's so very common in markets when you have an explosion through a past level of significant resistance to come back down long-term and treat it as support. I'm also going to see here as I start to turn on some of my indicators from Luxalgo, I'm going to see here that this is the bottom level of the take profit on the daily chart. I'm also going to come out here to the weekly and notice that this is the bottom level of my weekly blue smart trail of strong support. So a lot of things kind of coming in here for me saying, you know what? We're not quite at the bottom yet, but we're getting close. We got a lot of support right here and former resistance around this zone where you're going to see, what is that, 4 zeros and then 1585. I'm kind of looking at this area and saying this looks like the proper buy zone for SHIB before it takes up back up and to the right. Again, I think I said this before, and I want to reiterate to everybody, do not be too upset right now about altcoins being down and making you think that altcoins can't recover. This is very common for this cycle, this part of the cycle for this to happen. But this is an opportunity for you guys to buy up dips. I tell people all the time, if you go to the grocery store and you see your favorite box of cereal more than 50 at the grocery store, you buy it because that's your favorite and you save it up so you save money longer term. I treat altcoins, if it's a good coin long term, and I think SHIB, I'm not the biggest meme coin fan. I don't treat SHIB like a strong meme coin. I think it still has some strong community and strong upward trajectory. So I see 64% down and say, wow, what a discount. I want to buy some more.
That's great, Tim. I like your technicals on that. SHIB's looking pretty good to me. It also confirms when you look at the chart, there's a lot of charts that are confirming a little bit more room down. So we're saying that there's the potential for a little bit more room down on Bitcoin, and it's showing that there's a little bit more room down on some of our favorite alts and meme coins. You know, that SHIB chart, it kind of aligns a little bit with what we saw at Bitcoin. So someone's asked me about the mini summer alt season that I've mentioned in past videos. I would tell you that that's one of the things that's kind of strange is that we're still seeing Bitcoin dominance. Even though the price has come down, it's still showing dominance. It has not cooled off. We get the alt season when the Bitcoin dominance cools off, and right now we're still seeing that. So I think it's more of an issue of time. I will tell you that I think that because the overall market's pulled back, I think the buying that we do now and over the next 10 days, let's say, is going to be nicely rewarded, I think, in July, and that's why I am buying. Thoughts, Tim, on the timing of an altcoin season? I don't even know that these coins coming up off their lows could necessarily be qualified as an altcoin season, even though I do see that as happening in the next 10 days. I don't think that Bitcoin dominance has come to an end yet. So I don't think that we're going to get a true altcoin season until it does. And I would say that we're going to press into the summer a little bit, and I would say it is getting put off a little bit. I am thinking that that Bitcoin is still showing dominance. I was expecting the possibility of Bitcoin testing that 74K. It didn't. And I did say that we had to first get through 72. We failed at 72, so the idea of it testing 74 and then the Bitcoin dominance coming down, that didn't happen. And of course, we talked about that last week. But we still have Bitcoin dominance. What are your thoughts on that and the altcoin season?
Yeah, so what I'm looking at right here, I'm coming into the Bitcoin dominance chart, and I want to show people things about historically what Bitcoin dominance has done or how long the Bitcoin dominance stays high before it moves down. Again, altcoin season does not start until the Bitcoin dominance starts to plummet, like it did back here in about March, February area of 2017, and then again right here in about December of 2020. Notice here, these two green lines, these are the last two halvings of July 6, 2016 and May of 2020. We have 32 weeks. 32 weeks, that's roughly 8 months, give or take, after the halving event, before we actually saw the altcoin season start. Then you come in here. You see how many weeks here? 39. So a little bit longer time period, but ultimately, let's just kind of say it's going to be somewhere between 32 to 39. We'll call it 35. We just had a halving event happen right here in May, around May 20th. Let's see. Let's go sorry, April 20th, excuse me, not May. April 20th, right in here. This would suggest we really shouldn't see an altcoin season if history repeats itself once again until we get somewhere in the range of, oh, would you look at that, December of 2024. That doesn't mean altcoins can't climb from the bottom. What it means is Bitcoin will remain king and probably the best investment until about December of 2024, and then we should see Bitcoin dominance fall like a rock and altcoins become the best bang for your buck. We still got a long time, though, before that date comes.
Yeah, and I would say that the hope of us having a peak up on Bitcoin and possibly testing 74, 77, when we failed at 72, unfortunately that idea got canceled and taken off the table. And so we are still in this slow, steady climb of Bitcoin dominance. And I don't see a mini powerful altcoin season for the summer. Unfortunately, I do think though that the buying that we're going to do in the next 10 days, I personally think I'm going to be heavily rewarded for it still in this summer. And so I do think that there's good buying opportunities. I have to give a shout out to Keenan Grace. Keenan Grace is the best. Keenan is shouting out my Discord, and I got to tell you, I'm in Keenan's Discord, and if you're not in Keenan's Discord, then you are leaving a ton of value on the table. Keenan is one of the most disciplined teachers and investors that I know. And, I know he's shouting out my Discord, but I just had to tell everybody that I think he does a great job. Now, I did create my own Discord, and I appreciate him being here. Thank you, Keenan, for your generosity. Super chat, $50. My man is generous. When Keenan and I and Larry and Mo, we go out and travel and do different trade shows and different events, Keenan always slips away and he gets the bill. And it's been on a full lot. If I told you guys all the games that Keenan and I play so that I can try to outwit him to get the bill, I mean, he will do anything. Like, I got to go to the bathroom, and I have to send somebody to watch him at the door while I go get the bill. But he normally gets it ahead of me. Keenan, love you. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate all the support. Guys, we're going to leave it right there. We gave you a number of technicals. Join us again next week for Technical Tuesdays with Tim. I think a lot of great content and charting on Bitcoin, Ethereum, the altcoins, the strongest coins moving forward. Now, Tim and I are going to continue. We're going to do another broadcast here in the Discords shortly. If you don't have the ChartGoat University Discord, there's a link for that in the top pinned comment, and this is the great time. Someone asked for a discount. This is discounted for the folks that have been loyal followers to the page. You can get in at the entry level, and you can get grandfathered in because I don't imagine the price going down. I think it's probably going to go up in time, but I wanted everybody to get in at the best price they possibly could. Tim, appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing great technicals with the family, and
Absolutely.
Go to Tim's page, Investing Bros. I need to get more of his shows. I've been watching his shows this last week, loving what he's laying down. Appreciate all of you guys. Let's get the likes up here over 1,000 before we close out the show. Throw a heart in the comment and hit the subscribe if you're brand new to this page. Appreciate all of you guys. Peace and blessings. Take care. See you in 10 minutes.